Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. We've got some bad news actually for Palantir regarding their international business, and this is for a government client in France. And this is coming from the DGSI, or Director of Internal Security for France, who wants to just run out the rest of Palantir's 10 million euro contract, which was actually renewed for the same amount back in 2019. Now, their hope is to get their new solution implemented and fully operational by the Paris Olympic Games, which makes sense timeline-wise for a transition to happen before an influx of visitors to the country. Of course, there'll be heightened security around that time. So this is coming up pretty soon for the country since they'll be hosting in 2024 for the summer, and that's for those who don't follow that stuff. Now, the replacement selected is from ChapVision and Blueway. Basically, they've been working closely with the French government and have had a review process every quarter, and that's to ensure they are meeting the desired criteria of the French government. Basically, they made a strong impression and will be the replacement. As mentioned, it will be for around 40 million euros total for the two licensees from both of these suppliers, and it's mentioned it's not only for the national government but also be used by the states. So the cost will be spread out amongst the different governing bodies there. Now, this isn't new news per se, but I did make a previous video a while back, months ago, which mentioned ChapVision specifically vying for this business. Basically, it was a wait and see kind of video, but having confidence in Palantir and hopefully coming through. And ChapVision, who is the one that won, was the subject of that video, where they were making a run at this business for the French government, and of course playing on that political side. So it looks like in the end, Palantir will lose this business. Even if it's not the largest contract, it's still a government contract, and that was their bread and butter. Now, on the optimistic side of things, most likely this isn't due to underperformance or lack of value, but rather the politics and wanting a domestic supplier. France has been very outward on their need and want on going more domestic in their technological solutions, especially when it comes to government surveillance, mostly because they want something homegrown from these companies here at their own country. So honestly, I think there would be the same talks, of course, in the United States if the roles were switched. Now, obviously, I'd rather have Palantir gobble this business up, but I respect and understand their reasonings. Even if it ends up being an inferior product, it is their choice, of course. It keeps Palantir on their toes and to ensure they provide the best product possible they can, despite these kind of setbacks. Now, another optimistic view too is that this is their version of Homeland Security, I believe, and so it's not necessarily their military operations, which is more of Palantir's bread and butter, where I think they have a stronger product presence. So it's not necessarily the surveillance end. Of course, that was in the beginning. Now, surveillance and anti-terrorism was how they got their start, of course, and have been working with France and other European countries for years on this. But I'd say overall, this is a smaller part of their business in comparison to that military aspect I mentioned, but that's just my opinion. Now, on the downside, those are still there, of course, and it's not great news to lose any business, especially with Germany nearby and having talks of steering away from Palantir as well, or just rejecting them for their federal government usage, even against their state's wishes who actually do support it. If this becomes a cascading or spreading effect in all of Europe, it would be disappointing and might detract away from the commercial success if it's bad enough there. Now, I did make a video on the German one too, so feel free to follow those and get in more details. And of course, CARP has warned against this kind of activity, where your government should be procuring for the best solution, of course, and the value they bring. And maybe this is or isn't taking place here in France. So as long as Palantir isn't losing to this because they're inferior, that's something I'd be more worried about. They might have already seen the writing on the wall in regards to the desire of the French government to go domestic at the expense of quality or similar quality. Or the new solution just meets the minimum quality. Who knows about that? But basically, it doesn't sound like Palantir is not doing a good job. But what are your thoughts on this kind of news? I know it's kind of disappointing. It's not good for investors. But let me know below. And thank you all for watching and to my channel members. And I'll see you in the next video.